Take a deep breath with me now. Let your shoulders fall. Feel your body settling into this quiet moment. Tonight, we journey together back through the mists of time to a world of stone and candlelight, of whispered prayers and gentle footsteps on worn floors. You are safe here, warm and comfortable, as we drift back 700 years to walk beside someone whose name history forgot, but whose gentle hands helped shape the very foundations of the world we know today. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let us begin. The first light of dawn creeps through the narrow window slits of the great stone palace, painting thin silver lines across the rough wooden floor where young Mara sleeps. She lies curled beneath a coarse woolen blanket on her straw mattress, her breath forming small clouds in the cool morning air. The palace sleeps around her, hundreds of souls tucked away in chambers great and small, from the lord and lady in their silk-draped bed to the stable boys huddled together in the hay. But Mara's rest is ending now, as it does every morning before the sun has fully awakened. Her eyes flutter open, not to the harsh sound of a bell or the shout of an overseer, but to something deeper, an inner knowing that the day has begun. This is her gift, this gentle awakening that comes from years of service, years of listening to the palace's quiet breathing as it stirs to life. She sits up slowly, her bare feet finding the cold stone floor. Around her, 3 other servant girls still sleep, their faces peaceful in the dim light. Mara moves carefully, quietly, her footsteps no louder than whispers as she reaches for her simple brown dress, hanging from a wooden peg on the wall. The fabric is soft from countless washings, comfortable against her skin as she slips it over her linen shift. The air in the servants' chamber is crisp and clean, touched with the faint scent of lavender from the dried herbs that hang in small bundles from the ceiling beams. Lady Eleanor, the lord's wife, insists that even the servants' quarters be kept sweet-smelling, and so these little gifts of fragrance find their way into every corner of the palace, a small kindness that makes each breath a gentle blessing. Mara braids her long brown hair with practiced fingers, her movements slow and meditative. There is no hurry here, no rushing or anxiety. The palace keeps its own rhythm, ancient and steady as the heartbeat of the earth itself. She has learned to move with this rhythm, to let it carry her through each day, like a river carries a leaf, effortlessly, naturally, always in harmony with the greater flow. The wooden door creaks softly as she opens it, stepping into the narrow corridor that connects the servants' quarters to the main body of the palace. The walls here are thick stone, worn smooth by countless hands that have touched them over the generations. Small oil lamps flicker in iron sconces, casting dancing shadows that seem to welcome her into the day. Her first destination is always the same, the great hearth in the main kitchen, where the cooking fires must be coaxed back to life from the embers that have glowed quietly through the night. But as she walks, she pauses for a moment in the doorway of a small alcove where a wooden crucifix hangs on the wall, surrounded by tiny carved flowers that some long-forgotten craftsman shaped with loving care. She closes her eyes and offers a silent prayer, not asking for anything grand or dramatic, but simply giving thanks for another day of service, another day of quiet purpose. Her faith is gentle and deep, woven through her daily life like golden thread through brown cloth. It gives meaning to every small task, every humble moment, transforming them into something sacred and important. The kitchen, when she reaches it, is a cathedral of gentle shadows and warm stone. The great hearth dominates one wall, its mouth large enough for a person to stand inside. The embers from last night's fire glow like sleeping rubies among the ash, waiting patiently for her touch to bring them back to full flame. Mara kneels before the hearth with the same reverence she might show at prayer. Her hands are skilled from years of practice as she carefully arranges small pieces of kindling, around the glowing coals, creating tiny caves and passages for the air to flow through. She blows gently, her breath coaxing the embers to brighter life, watching as small flames begin to dance among the wood. The fire grows slowly, naturally, fed by her patient attention. There is something deeply satisfying about this daily ritual, this calling of light and warmth from darkness and cold. It connects her to every woman who has ever tended a fire, every servant who has ever brought life to a sleeping hearth. She is part of something larger than herself, part of an unbroken chain of quiet service that stretches back to the beginning of time. As the flames take hold and begin to climb higher, she adds larger pieces of wood, each one chosen with care. The dry oak catches quickly, filling the kitchen with the sweet scent of wood smoke and the cheerful crackle of burning timber. The sound is like gentle laughter, welcoming the day with joy and warmth. Around the kitchen, other fires must be lit as well, smaller hearths for specific tasks, braziers for warming food, the great bread oven that will fill the palace with the scent of fresh loaves. But Mara moves to each one with the same unhurried grace, the same gentle attention. There is time for everything, time to do each task with love and care. The bread oven, built into the wall beside the main hearth, requires special skill to bring to proper heat. Mara has learned its moods over the years, knows exactly how much wood to feed it, how long to wait between stages. She arranges the fuel inside the oven's stone chamber and lights it from a burning brand taken from the main fire. The flames roar up briefly, then settle into a steady, even burn that will heat the thick stone walls until they can bake dozens of loaves with just their stored warmth. While the ovens heat, she turns her attention to preparing the materials she will need throughout the morning. From a wooden bucket, she draws fresh water from the deep well that serves the kitchen, the rope and pulley system singing softly as she lowers and raises the leather bucket. The water is cold and pure, drawn from springs deep beneath the palace foundations, and it tastes of earth and stone and the secrets of the deep places. She fills several large iron pots and hangs them from the hooks that swing over the main fire, beginning the slow process of heating water for washing, for cooking, for all the countless tasks that will require it throughout the day. The pots are heavy and blackened with use, but she handles them with easy strength, her body grown strong from years of this gentle labor. From the pantry, she brings out the ingredients that will be needed for the morning meal: flour milled from wheat, grown in the palace's own fields, milk still warm from the castle's cows, eggs gathered from the hennery just yesterday evening. Each item tells a story of the palace's self-sufficiency, the careful balance of agriculture and craft that keeps this small world fed and flourishing. The flour is fine and white, a luxury that speaks to the Lord's wealth and status. Mara runs it through her fingers, feeling its smooth texture, smelling its clean, wholesome scent. Bread made from such flour will be light and flavorful, worthy of the noble table it will grace. But there is also coarser flour for the servants' bread, and meal for porridge, ensuring that everyone in the palace will be fed according to their station. As she works, other servants begin to appear in the kitchen, their faces sleepy but content in the growing warmth. There is Emma, barely 14, who helps with the simplest tasks, Thomas the baker's apprentice, his arms already dusted with flour, Sarah, who tends the herb garden and knows every plant by touch and smell. They greet each other with soft smiles and gentle words, their voices blending into the quiet morning symphony of the awakening palace. There is no harsh supervision here, no angry commands or fearful obedience. The work flows naturally from their shared understanding of what needs to be done, guided by years of practice and mutual respect. Emma begins grinding herbs for the morning's porridge, sage and thyme from the palace gardens, their scent rising fresh and green in the warm air. Thomas checks the temperature of the bread oven, holding his hand near the opening to judge the heat, his experienced touch telling him exactly when it will be ready for the first loaves. Sarah sorts through the vegetables brought up from the root cellars the night before: turnips and onions, carrots and parsnips, all stored carefully through the winter months and still fresh and firm. Her hands move with practiced efficiency, setting aside the best specimens for the Lord's table, the rest for the servants' meals. The kitchen fills gradually with gentle activity, each person contributing their skill to the growing symphony of preparation. There is something deeply peaceful about this shared labor, this quiet cooperation that speaks of community and mutual care. No one hurries. No one struggles alone with tasks too difficult for one pair of hands. Mara begins mixing the dough for the morning bread, her hands working the flour and water and salt into a smooth, elastic mass. The rhythm of kneading is meditative, almost like a prayer, her palms pressing and folding, until the dough becomes silky and alive beneath her touch. The sensation is deeply satisfying, the transformation of simple ingredients into something nourishing and good. She can feel the life in the dough, the way it responds to her touch, becoming more perfect with each fold and turn. This too is sacred work, this daily creation of sustenance for all who dwell within these walls. Around her, the kitchen continues its gentle awakening. The fire in the main hearth has settled into a steady burn, its warmth spreading through the stone-walled chamber like a blessing. The water in the iron pots begins to steam, sending small wisps of vapor into the air that catch the firelight like tiny spirits dancing. The scent of wood smoke mingles with the fresh smell of herbs and the yeasty aroma of rising dough. These are the perfumes of home and hearth, of comfort and sustenance, of the quiet magic that transforms raw materials into the stuff of life itself. They speak of continuity and care, of the endless cycle of seasons that brings grain from field to table, of the human hands that shape and tend and nurture. As the morning light grows stronger in the narrow windows, Mara shapes her kneaded dough into loaves, her hands forming each one with the same gentle attention. The loaves are round and smooth, marked with a simple cross that is both blessing and identification, the mark of the palace baker, the sign that this bread comes from loving hands. She sets the loaves on wooden boards to rise in the warmth near the fire, covering them with clean linen cloths that will keep them from drying out while the yeast does its slow, patient work. The sight of the covered loaves, lined up like sleeping children, fills her with quiet satisfaction. Soon they will be golden and fragrant, ready to nourish all who partake of them. The breakfast porridge is beginning to simmer in its great iron pot, the oats swelling and softening in the hot milk, absorbing the subtle flavors of the herbs that Emma has added. The mixture must be stirred regularly to prevent it from sticking or scorching, a task that requires patience and attention, but rewards the cook with perfectly smooth, creamy results. Mara takes up the long wooden spoon and stirs the porridge with slow, even strokes, feeling the changing texture as the oats break down and the mixture thickens. The warmth rising from the pot bathes her face with moist heat, carrying the comforting scent of the cooking grain. This is food that will stay with the workers through the morning, giving them strength for their labors. As she stirs, she can hear the palace beginning to wake around her. Footsteps echo in distant corridors, doors creak open and closed, voices murmur in rooms too far away for the words to be understood. The great stone building is coming alive, cell by cell, chamber by chamber, as its inhabitants stir from sleep and begin their daily routines. Soon the first requests will come from the Lord's chambers: hot water for washing, wine warmed with spices, perhaps some light refreshment before the morning meal. Mara will need to prepare these things with the same care she gives to everything else, ensuring that they are perfect in every detail. But for now, there is still time for the quiet tasks, the gentle preparations that lay the foundation for the day's more visible activities. She moves through the kitchen with practiced grace, checking the fires, tasting the porridge, testing the heat of the bread oven with her experienced hand. The oven is almost ready now, its stone walls heated to the perfect temperature for baking. Thomas nods to her, understanding passing between them without words. Together they remove the burning wood from the oven chamber, using long-handled tools to scrape out every ember and ash, leaving the interior clean and ready for the bread. The heat radiating from the oven walls is intense but not overwhelming, the result of careful timing and experienced judgment. The temperature will hold steady for hours, baking loaf after loaf to golden perfection, before gradually cooling to the lower heat needed for pies and roasted meats. Mara slides the first batch of risen loaves into the oven, their pale surfaces already beginning to color in the intense heat. The transformation is almost magical, raw dough becoming golden bread, simple ingredients becoming sustenance and comfort. She watches through the oven opening as the loaves puff and brown, their crusts forming with tiny crackling sounds that speak of perfection achieved. While the bread bakes, she turns her attention to other tasks. The morning ale must be prepared, a weak, nourishing drink that is safer than water and more sustaining than wine. She measures barley and hops into a copper brewing pot, adding hot water and stirring the mixture with a clean wooden paddle. The brewing of ale is both art and science, requiring precise timing and careful attention to temperature and proportions. But Mara has learned these skills from the master brewer, and her hands work with confidence as she tends the steaming pot. The scent of the brewing grain fills the air with yeasty richness, promising refreshment for thirsty workers. Around her, the kitchen continues its peaceful ballet of preparation. Emma has begun washing the vegetables that Sarah sorted, her young hands scrubbing away every trace of earth from the carrots and turnips. The clean vegetables will be chopped and added to the great soup pot that feeds the servants their midday meal, their fresh flavors brightening the rich broth. Sarah herself has moved on to preparing the herbs that will season the Lord's breakfast. Delicate chives, snipped fine with sharp shears, parsley chopped to release its bright green essence, tiny leaves of mint that will freshen the morning wine. Each herb is treated with respect, its individual character preserved and enhanced by her skilled preparation. The morning light streaming through the windows has grown stronger now, touching the stone walls with pale gold and chasing away the last shadows of night. The kitchen glows with warmth and activity, filled with the sounds of gentle work and quiet conversation. From somewhere in the palace comes the sound of a bell, not the harsh clang of alarm or summons, but the soft, melodic tone that marks the hours and keeps the palace in rhythm with the turning of the day. It is the signal that the morning prayers are beginning in the chapel, that the Lord and Lady are stirring in their chambers, that the day's formal activities are about to commence. Mara pauses in her work to listen to the bell's sweet voice, letting its music wash over her like a blessing. She has heard this same bell countless times, marking countless mornings, and each time it fills her with the same sense of belonging, of being part of something larger and more meaningful than herself. The first loaves of bread are ready now, their crusts golden brown and singing with tiny cracks as they cool in the morning air. She removes them from the oven with practiced skill, setting them on wooden racks where they will cool slowly, their internal steam creating the perfect soft texture within the crispy crust. The scent of fresh bread fills the kitchen, mixing with all the other aromas of the morning's work. It is a smell that speaks of home and comfort, of nourishment and care, of the simple abundance that flows from patient labor and skilled hands. Everyone in the kitchen pauses for a moment to breathe it in, their faces brightening with shared pleasure. More loaves wait their turn in the oven, and Mara slides them in to replace the finished ones. The process will continue throughout the morning, producing enough bread for everyone in the palace. Fine white loaves for the Lord's table, coarser brown bread for the servants, small sweet rolls, flavored with honey and spices for special occasions. The brewing ale is ready for its next stage, and she strains the liquid through clean linen cloth, removing the spent grain and hops to leave a clear amber drink that sparkles in the firelight. The taste is clean and refreshing, with just enough alcohol to make it safe to drink and enough nourishment to sustain a worker through long hours of labor. As she works, Mara is aware of the changing rhythm of the palace around her. The quiet stirrings of early morning are giving way to the more purposeful sounds of the day's beginning. Footsteps echo more frequently in the corridors. Voices carry more clearly through the stone passages. Doors open and close with increasing frequency. Soon the first formal requests will arrive from the upper chambers. Lady Eleanor will want her morning chocolate prepared just so hot milk, infused with precious cocoa and sweetened with honey, served in her favorite cup with its delicate painted roses. Lord William will require his usual breakfast of bread and cheese, cold meat and small ale, all arranged perfectly on his silver tray. But even these grander preparations hold no anxiety for Mara. She knows exactly how each dish should be prepared, exactly how each tray should be arranged. The knowledge is as much a part of her as her own heartbeat, acquired through years of careful observation and patient practice. The porridge is ready now, thick and creamy, and perfectly seasoned with the herbs that Emma prepared. Mara tastes it with a clean wooden spoon, adjusting the salt and checking the texture with the expertise of someone who has made this dish thousands of times. It is exactly right, smooth but not thin, flavorful but not overwhelming, nourishing and satisfying. She ladles the porridge into wooden bowls for the servants' breakfast, each portion generous and inviting. The bowls are simple but well made, carved from local oak and polished smooth by countless hands. They hold the porridge like gentle cups, their warm wood complementing the hot food within. Around the kitchen, the morning preparations are reaching their crescendo. Thomas has prepared his special sweet dough for the Lord's morning pastries, rolling it thin and spreading it with butter and cinnamon before folding it into delicate layers. Sarah has arranged fresh flowers in small clay pots, bringing spring's beauty into the stone-walled chambers. Emma, despite her youth, has proven herself skilled at the delicate task of clarifying broths, carefully skimming away every trace of foam and fat to leave a crystal-clear liquid that will enhance the Lord's morning soup. Her young face is serious with concentration as she works, understanding the importance of getting every detail exactly right. The second batch of bread emerges from the oven, golden and perfect, adding its voice to the symphony of scents that fills the kitchen. Mara arranges the loaves on their cooling racks, their crusts crackling softly as they adjust to the cooler air. Each one is a small masterpiece, shaped by loving hands and perfected by patient skill. From the upper regions of the palace comes the sound of movement, the rustle of silk as Lady Eleanor rises from her bed, the heavier footsteps of Lord William as he stirs to wakefulness. Soon they will expect their morning refreshments, and everything must be ready to perfection. But there is no tension in this expectation, no fear of failure or punishment. The palace runs on trust and mutual respect, each person understanding their role and performing it with pride and care. The servants take satisfaction in their ability to anticipate needs and fulfill them perfectly, while the Lord and Lady appreciate the skill and dedication that makes their comfortable life possible. Mara begins preparing Lady Eleanor's chocolate, heating rich milk in a small copper pot over the gentlest flame. The milk must be brought to exactly the right temperature, hot enough to dissolve the precious cocoa, but not so hot as to scorch or curdle. She stirs it constantly with a small wooden spoon, watching for the telltale signs that indicate perfect readiness. The cocoa itself is a rare luxury, imported from distant lands at great expense. Mara treats it with appropriate reverence, measuring out just enough of the dark powder to create the rich, complex flavor that Lady Eleanor prefers. The scent rises from the pot like exotic incense, speaking of far-off places and merchant ships, of wealth and privilege, and the vast networks of trade that bring such treasures to this remote palace. She sweetens the chocolate with golden honey, stirring it in slowly until it dissolves completely, leaving no trace of crystallization to mar the smooth texture. The result is a drink fit for royalty, rich, fragrant, and perfectly balanced between sweet and bitter notes. The morning light streaming through the kitchen windows has grown bright and clear now, banishing the last shadows of dawn and filling the stone-walled chamber with golden warmth. The fires burn steadily in their hearths, the bread ovens radiate comfortable heat, and the air shimmers with the rising steam from countless pots and pans. This is the kitchen at its most beautiful moment, fully awakened, humming with purposeful activity, filled with the scents and sounds and sights of skilled work performed with love and pride. Every surface gleams with cleanliness, every tool rests in its proper place, every dish progresses toward perfection under the watchful eyes of experienced cooks. Mara pours Lady Eleanor's chocolate into the delicate porcelain cup that is kept specially for this purpose, its painted roses glowing in the morning light. She arranges it on a silver tray with a small plate of the sweet pastries that Thomas has prepared, adding a linen napkin embroidered with the family crest and a tiny spoon crafted from precious silver. The tray is a work of art in itself, every element perfectly placed, every detail contributing to the overall harmony of the presentation. This, too, is part of her skill, this ability to create beauty from simple elements, to transform the mundane act of serving food into something approaching ceremony. As she carries the tray toward the door that leads to the upper chambers, Mara pauses for a moment to appreciate the scene around her. The kitchen bustles with quiet efficiency, her fellow servants moving through their tasks with practiced grace, everything proceeding according to the ancient rhythms that have guided palace life for generations. She is part of this, integral to its smooth functioning, valued for her skill and dedication. Her work may be humble in the eyes of the world, but here in this place, it is recognized as essential and important. She takes pride in this knowledge, drawing strength from her sense of belonging and purpose. The corridors of the palace stretch before her, their stone walls worn smooth by centuries of passing feet. Narrow windows set high in the walls admit shafts of morning light that illuminate the ancient stones, revealing the subtle variations in color and texture that speak of the many hands that shaped and placed them long ago. Her footsteps echo softly as she climbs the spiral staircase that leads to the upper levels, the tray balanced perfectly in her experienced hands. The stairs are steep and narrow, carved from single blocks of stone and polished smooth by countless feet. Each step requires careful attention, but Mara has climbed these stairs so often that she could navigate them in complete darkness. The air grows cooler as she ascends, the thick stone walls holding the chill of night even as the day warms outside. But this coolness is pleasant rather than uncomfortable, a refreshing contrast to the warm kitchen below. It carries with it the faintest scent of the herbs that are scattered throughout the palace, lavender and rosemary, sage and thyme, creating an atmosphere of freshness and cleanliness. At the top of the stairs, she turns into a corridor lined with doors, each one leading to different chambers within the lord and lady's private quarters. The doors are made of heavy oak, carved with intricate patterns that tell stories of faith and nobility, their dark wood polished to a soft gleam that reflects the light from the wall sconces. She pauses before Lady Eleanor's door, listening for any sounds from within that might indicate whether her mistress is ready to receive visitors. The palace teaches patience, teaches the art of waiting for the right moment, of moving in harmony with the natural rhythms of human life, rather than imposing artificial urgency. From within comes the soft sound of movement, the rustle of fabric, the gentle splash of water as Lady Eleanor performs her morning ablutions. These are the sounds of someone taking their time, moving with the unhurried grace that comes from security and privilege. Mara waits patiently, knowing that the right moment will make itself known. When the sounds settle into a steady rhythm, she taps gently on the door. Not the harsh knock of urgent business, but the soft, respectful sound that requests permission rather than demanding attention. Her touch is light but clear, carrying just enough sound to be heard without startling or intruding. Enter comes Lady Eleanor's voice from within, warm and welcoming despite the early hour. It is a voice that has never known harshness or cruelty, shaped by a lifetime of kindness and gentle authority. Even in this simple word, Mara can hear the smile that surely accompanies it. She opens the door and steps into a chamber that seems to glow with soft morning light. The windows here are larger than those in the servants' quarters, fitted with glass panels that filter the sunlight into gentle rainbows that dance across the stone walls. Rich tapestries hang from the walls, their colors muted by age, but still beautiful, depicting scenes of courtly life and pastoral tranquility. Lady Eleanor sits at her dressing table, her long hair being brushed by her personal maid Anna. The hair falls in waves of silver and gold, still beautiful, despite her 40 years, still lustrous and thick. She wears a simple linen shift, her more elaborate dress hanging nearby, waiting for the completion of her morning preparations. Her reflection in the polished metal mirror shows a face marked by kindness and intelligence, with laugh lines around her eyes, and a mouth that curves naturally into a gentle smile. She is not a great beauty in the conventional sense, but there is something deeply attractive about her, a warmth and grace that draws people to her like flowers turning toward the sun. "Good morning, Mara," she says, turning from the mirror with genuine pleasure. "How lovely to see you this morning. And what delightful smells you bring with you. Is that chocolate I detect?" "Yes, my lady," Mara replies, setting the tray on the small table by the window where Lady Eleanor likes to take her morning refreshment. "Prepared just as you prefer it, with honey from our own hives." "Perfect," Lady Eleanor says, rising from her chair with fluid grace. "You always know exactly what I need, don't you? It's a gift, that intuition of yours." The compliment warms Mara's heart, but she accepts it with the quiet dignity that befits her station. Lady Eleanor has always been generous with her praise, recognizing the skill and care that go into even the simplest tasks. This mutual respect is part of what makes the palace such a pleasant place to work, the understanding that everyone, regardless of rank, contributes something valuable to the whole. Lady Eleanor settles into the chair by the window, lifting the delicate cup to her lips and inhaling the rich aroma of the chocolate before taking her first sip. Her eyes close briefly in appreciation, and a smile of pure pleasure crosses her face. "Exquisite," she murmurs. "Absolutely perfect. You have such a touch with these things, Mara. I don't know how you do it, but every cup you prepare tastes exactly as it should, rich and smooth and perfectly balanced." As Lady Eleanor enjoys her chocolate, Mara quietly tends to the other needs of the chamber. She straightens the bedclothes that Anna has already turned back for airing, adjusts the position of the flowers that Sarah brought up the day before, opens the shutters a little wider to admit more of the morning light. These tasks are performed with the same careful attention that she brings to everything else, each movement economical and purposeful. There is no wasted motion, no awkwardness or uncertainty. She moves through the chamber like a dancer through a familiar routine, every step planned and practiced, until it becomes as natural as breathing. The chamber itself reflects Lady Eleanor's character, elegant but not ostentatious, comfortable but not luxurious to the point of excess. The furnishings are of fine quality, but chosen for their beauty and usefulness rather than their cost. A wooden chest carved with flowering vines holds her collection of books, a rare and precious luxury that speaks to her education and intelligence. The bed is draped with hangings of soft blue wool, embroidered with silver thread and patterns of stars and moons. The work is exquisite, probably done by the lady's own hands during the long winter evenings, when the court gathered around the fire to share stories and work on their various crafts. On the wall hangs a small religious painting, its colors still vivid despite its age. It depicts the Virgin Mary holding the Christ child, both figures surrounded by angels whose faces shine with divine love. The painting serves as both decoration and devotion, a reminder of the faith that guides and sustains the household through all the challenges of earthly life. Lady Eleanor finishes her chocolate and turns her attention to one of the sweet pastries that Thomas prepared. The pastry flakes delicately between her fingers, releasing the scent of butter and cinnamon, the sweet spices warming her mouth with their familiar comfort. "Please give my compliments to Thomas," she says to Mara. "These pastries are particularly fine this morning. He's developing quite a skill with the sweet dough." "I will be sure to tell him, my lady," Mara replies. "He will be pleased to know that his work meets with your approval." As she speaks, Mara continues her quiet ministrations, folding the nightgown that Lady Eleanor has discarded, arranging the various bottles and jars on the dressing table, ensuring that everything is in perfect order for the day ahead. Her hands work automatically, leaving her mind free to appreciate the peaceful beauty of the morning scene. The light streaming through the windows has grown stronger now, chasing away the last coolness of night and beginning to warm the stone walls. Outside, she can hear the sounds of the palace fully awakening, the clatter of hooves in the courtyard as the grooms exercise the horses, the voices of the groundskeepers as they tend to the gardens, the distant sound of the chapel bell calling the faithful to morning prayers. Lady Eleanor rises from her chair and moves to the window, looking out over the palace grounds with evident pleasure. From this height, she can see the entire domain, the neat rows of the kitchen garden, the orchard with its fruit trees beginning to show the first hints of spring buds, the pastures where the castle's livestock graze peacefully in the morning sun. "What a beautiful day it promises to be," she says softly. "I think I'll take my morning walk in the garden after breakfast. The air looks so fresh and clean, and I believe I saw some early flowers blooming by the south wall yesterday." "The daffodils have begun to show their faces, my lady," Mara confirms, "and Sarah says the herb garden is already showing new growth. She's been preparing the beds for the spring planting." "Wonderful," Lady Eleanor says. "There's nothing quite like the promise of spring to lift the spirits, is there? After the long winter, every sign of new life feels like a personal blessing." Anna has finished brushing her mistress's hair and begins the intricate process of arranging it in the elaborate style that fashion demands. Her fingers work with practiced skill, creating loops and braids that frame Lady Eleanor's face becomingly, while ensuring that every strand is perfectly in place. Mara watches this process with professional appreciation, understanding the time and skill required to achieve such seemingly effortless perfection. Anna has been Lady Eleanor's personal maid for nearly 10 years, and the two women work together with an understanding that goes beyond words. The hair arrangement complete, Lady Eleanor moves to where her dress for the day hangs waiting. It is a gown of deep blue wool, cut in the latest fashion, with a fitted bodice and flowing skirts that will move gracefully as she walks. The fabric is of fine quality, soft to the touch and rich in color, but not so elaborate as to suggest vanity or excess. Mara helps Anna dress their mistress, their four hands working in perfect coordination to settle the heavy fabric into place, Adjust the fit of the bodice. Ensure that every fold falls exactly as it should. The process is like a gentle dance, each woman knowing her part in the choreography of preparation. When Lady Eleanor is fully dressed, she looks every inch the noble lady, elegant, graceful, and appropriately attired for her station. But there is nothing cold or distant about her appearance. The warmth of her personality shines through the formal clothing, making her seem approachable despite the obvious markers of her rank. "Perfect," she says, examining herself in the mirror with satisfaction. "You two have outdone yourselves once again. I feel quite ready to face whatever the day may bring." Mara gathers the empty tray and prepares to return to the kitchen, where other tasks await her attention. But Lady Eleanor's voice stops her as she reaches the door. "Mara," she says gently, "please tell the kitchen that Lord William and I will be entertaining guests for dinner tonight. Nothing too elaborate. Just Sir Geoffrey and his lady wife, and perhaps Father Benedict from the monastery. Something simple but elegant would be perfect." "Of course, my lady," Mara replies. "Shall I ask cook to prepare the roasted fowl with herbs, and perhaps the honey cakes that are so popular with Father Benedict?" "That sounds ideal," Lady Eleanor agrees. "You always know exactly what will please our guests. I leave the details entirely in your capable hands." This trust, this confidence in her judgment, fills Mara with quiet pride. She has earned this respect through years of careful attention, of learning the preferences and habits of the household, of developing the intuition that allows her to anticipate needs before they are expressed. She curtsies respectfully and takes her leave, the empty tray balanced carefully in her hands as she makes her way back through the corridors toward the kitchen. The palace is fully alive now, with servants hurrying about their various tasks, their voices echoing softly from the stone walls as they coordinate the day's activities. The morning light streaming through the windows has grown bright and warm, promising a beautiful day ahead. As she walks, Mara can hear the sounds of life throughout the palace, the clatter of dishes from the kitchen, the soft murmur of prayers from the chapel, the distant sound of children laughing in the courtyard. In the kitchen, she finds the breakfast preparations in full swing. The servants gather around the long wooden table, sharing the porridge and fresh bread that began the day's cooking. Their faces are bright with contentment, their conversation cheerful and unhurried. Thomas looks up from his bowl with a pleased expression as Mara delivers Lady Eleanor's compliments about his pastries. His young face flushes with pride at the praise, and he straightens his shoulders with renewed confidence in his growing skills. The noon bell chimes softly from the chapel tower, its melodic voice carrying across the palace grounds and through every stone corridor. Mara pauses in her work, listening to the familiar sound that has marked midday for countless generations. The bell's voice is neither urgent nor demanding, but rather a gentle reminder of time's passage, like the heartbeat of the palace itself. She stands in the great hall now, where shafts of sunlight stream through the tall windows, creating pools of golden warmth on the worn stone floor. The hall is magnificent yet welcoming, its high vaulted ceiling supported by graceful arches that seem to reach toward heaven itself. Tapestries hang from the walls, their colors softened by age, but still telling their ancient stories of noble deeds and courtly virtues. In her hands, she holds a soft cloth and a piece of silver that gleams like captured moonlight, a chalice used for special occasions, its surface decorated with delicate engravings of flowering vines. The silver responds to her gentle touch, brightening under her careful polishing until it reflects the dancing light from the windows like a mirror made of starshine. This is meditative work, this polishing of precious things. Her movements are slow and rhythmic, each stroke of the cloth deliberate and loving. The silver warms under her touch, seeming to come alive as its natural luster emerges from beneath the faint tarnish that time inevitably brings to all beautiful things. Around her, the great hall holds the peaceful quiet of midday rest. The morning's activities have settled into their natural rhythm, and the afternoon's more formal events have not yet begun. It is a time of gentle pause, when the palace seems to breathe deeply and gather its strength for the hours ahead. Other servants move quietly through the hall, each absorbed in their own tasks. Young Peter tends to the great fireplace, ensuring that the banked coals remain ready to spring back to life when evening brings the need for warmth and light. His movements are careful and practiced despite his youth. The palace teaches its lessons well, and even the youngest servants learn to work with skill and pride. Near the tall windows, Emma arranges fresh rushes on the floor, their green scent mingling with the herbs that have been scattered among them. The rushes will absorb moisture and provide cushioning underfoot, while the herbs lavender, rosemary, and sweet woodruff will release their fragrance when stepped upon, keeping the air fresh and pleasant. The work of maintaining the great hall is never truly finished, but it is work that brings deep satisfaction. Each polished surface, each swept stone, each carefully arranged detail contributes to the beauty and comfort of this space, where the Lord holds court, where guests are welcomed, where the important business of the estate is conducted with dignity and grace. Mara completes her polishing of the chalice and sets it carefully in its place on the great sideboard, where it joins other precious objects: silver plates hammered thin as silk, goblets carved from horn and bound with gold, candlesticks that have held countless flames through countless evenings of fellowship and celebration. From the sideboard, she takes up another piece that requires attention, a serving dish of pewter, its surface dulled by use, but still bearing the elegant proportions that mark it as the work of a master craftsman. Pewter is softer than silver, more forgiving under her cloth, warming quickly to reveal its characteristic soft gleam. As she works, her mind wanders to the dinner that Lady Eleanor has requested for the evening. Sir Geoffrey and his wife are old friends of the household, frequent visitors whose company is always welcome. Father Benedict from the nearby monastery is also a regular guest, a learned man whose conversations range from theology to the practical matters of agriculture and healing. The menu will need to reflect the importance of the guests, while remaining appropriately modest for a weekday meal. The roasted fowl that Lady Eleanor suggested will be perfect, dressed with herbs from the palace garden, served with vegetables fresh from the root cellars, accompanied by the fine white bread that Thomas bakes so skillfully. She envisions the meal as she works, seeing in her mind's eye how each dish will be presented, how the flavors will complement each other, how the entire experience will reflect the warmth and hospitality that the household is known for. This ability to see the complete picture, to understand how every small detail contributes to the larger harmony, is part of what makes her so valuable to the smooth running of the palace. The afternoon light shifts gradually as the sun moves across the sky, changing the patterns of illumination in the great hall. What was golden becomes amber, what was bright becomes mellow, creating an ever-changing tapestry of light and shadow that plays across the ancient stones. From somewhere in the palace comes the sound of music, a lute being played softly, its notes floating through the corridors like gentle spirits. Perhaps Lady Eleanor is practicing a new piece, or one of the young pages is entertaining himself during the quiet afternoon hours. The music adds another layer to the palace's peaceful atmosphere, weaving melody through the soft sounds of distant activity. Mara finishes with the pewter dish and moves on to the candlesticks, each one unique in its design, but all sharing the same quality of careful craftsmanship. Some are brass, their warm gold color glowing even without flame. Others are silver, their surfaces bearing the patina that comes only with age and careful use. Each one tells a story of the light it has held, the meals it has illuminated, the conversations it has witnessed. The work of cleaning these precious objects is not merely maintenance, it is a form of reverence, a way of honoring the beauty and utility that human hands have created. Each piece has been shaped by someone's skill and vision, and her careful tending helps to preserve that legacy for future generations. As she polishes, she becomes aware of footsteps approaching across the stone floor. The sound is measured and dignified, neither hurried nor hesitant, and she recognizes it immediately as Lord William's distinctive gait. She continues her work, knowing that he will speak if he wishes her attention, content to remain part of the hall's peaceful background if he prefers solitude. Lord William pauses near the great windows, looking out over his domain with the satisfied expression of a man who takes genuine pleasure in the prosperity and order of his holdings. He is a man in his middle years, his hair showing threads of silver, but his bearing still strong and vigorous. His face is kind but serious, marked by the responsibility he feels for all who depend upon him. "Good afternoon, Mara," he says eventually, his voice carrying the warmth that characterizes all his interactions with the household staff. "I see you're ensuring that our treasures maintain their proper dignity." "Good afternoon, my lord," she replies, pausing in her work to offer a respectful curtsy. The silver always responds well to a gentle touch. "Indeed it does," he agrees, moving closer to examine her work. "That chalice belonged to my grandfather, you know. He received it as a gift from the bishop himself, in recognition of his contributions to the monastery's building fund. It has presided over countless celebrations in this hall." The information fills Mara with even greater reverence for the piece she has just finished polishing. To know its history, to understand the significance it holds for the family, makes her work feel even more meaningful. She is not just maintaining an object, she is preserving a legacy. "It's beautiful work, my lord," she says softly. "The engravings are so delicate, so full of life. Whoever created it must have been a master of his craft." "Brother Marcus from the monastery," Lord William replies. "He had the gift of making metal sing under his hands. Gone now, of course. This was 40 years ago or more, but his work lives on, thanks to careful tending like yours." The conversation illustrates one of the qualities that makes the palace such a special place, the way that history lives within its walls, not as distant memory, but as living presence. Every object has a story. Every room holds echoes of the lives that have been lived within it. Every tradition connects the present moment to a larger continuity that stretches back through generations. Lord William continues his survey of the hall, his eyes taking in every detail with the practiced gaze of someone who understands that true leadership lies in attention to the small things as much as the great ones. He pauses to straighten a tapestry that hangs slightly askew, to adjust the position of a chair that has been moved from its proper place. These small corrections might seem insignificant to an outside observer, but Mara understands their importance. The Great Hall is the heart of the palace, the space where the family's authority and dignity are most visibly displayed. Every detail must be perfect, not from vanity but from respect. Respect for the guests who will be welcomed here, respect for the traditions that the hall represents, respect for the countless people whose work makes such perfection possible. "Lady Eleanor tells me we'll have guests for dinner this evening," Lord William says as he completes his circuit of the hall. "Sir Geoffrey and Lady Margaret, and good Father Benedict. It will be pleasant to see them again." "Yes, my lord," Mara replies. "The kitchen is already making preparations. Cook plans to serve the roasted fowl with garden herbs, and Thomas is preparing his finest bread for the occasion." "Excellent," Lord William nods approvingly. "Sir Geoffrey has a great appreciation for fine cooking, and Father Benedict's stories are always better when accompanied by good food. We'll dine in the small hall, I think, more intimate for such a gathering." The small hall is indeed a more comfortable space for a dinner party of this size, with its lower ceiling and more modest proportions creating an atmosphere of warmth and fellowship rather than formal grandeur. Mara makes a mental note to ensure that the room is prepared accordingly, with the proper linens, the appropriate serving pieces, and the right selection of candles to create the perfect ambiance. Lord William takes his leave, continuing on whatever business calls him through the palace's many corridors. His footsteps fade gradually, leaving behind only the gentle sounds of the servants going about their afternoon tasks. The great hall settles back into its peaceful quiet, the sunlight continuing its slow dance across the ancient stones. Mara returns to her polishing with renewed focus, understanding now the particular significance of the evening ahead. Sir Geoffrey is not just a friend but also an important ally, whose good opinion matters to the family's standing in the wider world. Father Benedict brings his own form of influence, representing as he does the spiritual authority of the church. The meal they will share tonight is thus more than mere hospitality. It is a form of diplomacy, a way of maintaining and strengthening the bonds that hold the community together. Every detail must be perfect, from the food to the service to the atmosphere of the dining hall itself. She finishes the last of the candlesticks and stands back to survey her work. The sideboard gleams with polished metal and reflects the dancing light from the windows. Each piece is perfectly positioned, creating a display that speaks of wealth used wisely, of beauty preserved and honored, of a household that understands the difference between ostentation and appropriate dignity. The afternoon is advancing now, and soon she will need to turn her attention to preparing the small dining hall for the evening's gathering. But first, there are other tasks that require her attention: linens to be checked, flowers to be arranged, a dozen small details that together will create the perfect setting for the meal ahead. She makes her way through the corridors toward the linen rooms, where the household supplies of cloth are stored in great wooden chests that smell of lavender and cedar. The corridors here are narrower than those in the main part of the palace, designed for service rather than display, but they are no less carefully maintained. The walls are lined with small alcoves that hold oil lamps, their flames flickering gently in the still air. The light they provide is warm and steady, creating pools of golden illumination that guide her way through the stone passages. The lamps themselves are simple but well made, their brass surfaces polished to a soft gleam that reflects the flame within. In the linen room, she opens one of the great chests and breathes in the sweet scent of dried herbs that protects the precious fabrics from moths and mustiness. The linens stored here represent years of careful work, some woven by the women of the household during the long winter evenings, others purchased from traveling merchants who bring the finest goods from distant cities. She selects a tablecloth of cream-colored linen, its surface decorated with embroidered flowers and threads of blue and gold. The work is exquisite, each tiny stitch perfectly placed, each petal and leaf rendered with lifelike accuracy. It will provide the perfect foundation for the evening's table setting, elegant enough to honor the guests while remaining appropriate for a relatively informal gathering. Matching napkins complete the selection, their edges finished with the same delicate embroidery as the tablecloth. She checks each piece carefully for any signs of wear or staining, but the household standards are too high to allow such imperfections to escape notice. Everything is immaculate, ready to play its part in creating an evening of perfect hospitality. From another chest, she takes out the special serving linens that will be needed for the evening's meal: pristine white cloths for covering the serving dishes, delicate napkins for the servers' use, small towels for the washing of hands that will precede the meal. Each piece has its place in the elaborate choreography of formal dining, and all must be ready when the time comes. The late afternoon light, filtering through the narrow windows, has taken on the golden quality that speaks of the day's gradual decline toward evening. It is a peaceful time in the palace when the major activities of the day have been completed and the evening's festivities are still hours away. The servants move about their tasks with unhurried efficiency, each person contributing to the smooth preparation for the night ahead. Mara carries the selected linens to the small dining hall, where she begins the careful process of preparing the space for the evening's guests. The hall is indeed more intimate than its grander counterpart, with a lower ceiling supported by carved wooden beams and windows that look out onto the palace's inner courtyard. The table that dominates the center of the room is made of dark oak, its surface polished to mirror smoothness by countless applications of beeswax and elbow grease. It is large enough to seat 8 people comfortably, though tonight it will accommodate only 6, the host and hostess, their 3 guests, and the empty chair that tradition always reserves for an unexpected visitor. She spreads the embroidered tablecloth with careful attention to its positioning, ensuring that the pattern falls symmetrically and that the edges hang evenly on all sides. The linen settles over the dark wood like fresh snow, transforming the table into a canvas ready for the artistry of the evening's presentation. The napkins she places at each setting with equal care, folding them into simple but elegant shapes that complement the overall design without drawing attention to themselves. The art of table setting lies in creating beauty that serves the meal rather than competing with it, in establishing an atmosphere of refined comfort that allows the guest to focus on fellowship and conversation. From the chapel comes the sound of vespers being sung, the voices of the monastery brothers joining in ancient harmonies that have echoed through these stones for generations. The music drifts through the dining hall like incense, adding a layer of spiritual beauty to the physical preparations taking place. Father Benedict will appreciate this reminder of his vocation, this connection between the sacred and the secular that characterizes life in the medieval world. For him, as for all truly devout people of this age, there is no sharp division between the spiritual and the material. Every meal is a blessing, every gathering an opportunity for grace. Mara continues her preparations with the measured pace that marks all palace activities. There is no hurry here, no sense of anxiety or pressure. Everything proceeds according to time-tested rhythms, guided by experience and tradition rather than artificial urgency. The result is work done with care and attention, meals that satisfy both body and spirit, gatherings that nourish the bonds of community and friendship. She moves to the sideboard that lines one wall of the dining hall, checking the serving pieces that will be needed for the evening meal. Silver platters for the roasted fowl, pewter dishes for the vegetables, ceramic bowls for the sauces, and accompaniments, each piece selected not just for its practical utility, but for its contribution to the visual harmony of the meal. The late afternoon sun slants through the windows at an increasingly steep angle, creating long shadows that stretch across the stone floor. The light has taken on the warm, honeyed quality that speaks of day's end approaching, though several hours of activity remain before the palace settles into the peaceful quiet of night. From the kitchen comes the scent of roasting meat, the herbs and spices beginning to work their magic on the fowl that will be the centerpiece of the evening's feast. Cook has begun the slow process of creating the perfect meal, timing each element so that everything will be ready at precisely the right moment. Mara makes her way back to the kitchen to check on the progress and see if her assistance is needed with any of the final preparations. The kitchen is bustling now with purposeful activity, but it is organized bustle. Each person knows their role, each task proceeds according to plan, each element of the meal develops according to its own natural timeline. Cook stands at the great hearth, basting the fowl with their own juices and the wine that has been added to enhance their flavor. The birds are browning beautifully, their skin crisping to golden perfection, while the meat remains tender and moist within. The scent rising from the roasting pan is rich and complex, promising a dish that will satisfy both appetite and aesthetic appreciation. "How do they look?" Mara asks, approaching to admire Cook's handiwork. "Perfect," Cook replies with satisfaction. "Another hour and they'll be ready. The herbs have penetrated well. You can smell the rosemary and thyme coming through beautifully. Indeed, the aroma is magnificent, speaking of the marriage between the natural flavors of the meat and the careful selection of seasonings that enhance rather than mask its essential character. This is cooking at its finest, not the showy complexity that some cooks use to display their technical skill, but the deeper artistry that understands how to bring out the best in simple, excellent ingredients." Thomas is putting the finishing touches on the evening's bread, shaping loaves that will emerge from the oven with crusts crisp enough to crackle when broken, but not so hard as to make eating difficult. His skill has grown remarkably over the past months, and his bread now rivals that of bakers with twice his experience. Emma tends to the vegetables that will accompany the fowl, carrots and parsnips from the palace's own gardens, their natural sweetness enhanced by slow roasting in the oven's gentle heat. She turns them carefully with a long wooden spoon, ensuring that they brown evenly without becoming overly caramelized. The sauce that will grace the fowl simmers gently in a small pot, its contents a carefully balanced blend of the roasting juices, wine from the palace's own cellars, and herbs chosen to complement the other elements of the meal. Sarah tends it with the attention of someone who understands that the finest sauces cannot be hurried. They must be coaxed into perfection through patience and skill. Everything proceeds according to the ancient rhythms of good cooking, each element developing at its own pace while remaining in harmony with the others. The kitchen fills with the scents and sounds of careful preparation, creating an atmosphere of warm anticipation for the feast to come. Mara assists where needed, her experienced hands contributing to the smooth coordination of the meal's preparation. She checks the temperature of the wine that will be served with dinner, ensuring that it has been brought to the perfect point, cool enough to be refreshing, but not so cold as to mask its subtle flavors. The dining hall awaits, its table set with loving care, its atmosphere prepared to welcome the evening's guests. The small details that make such gatherings memorable have all been attended to. The flowers Sarah arranged this morning have been refreshed. The candles that will illuminate the meal have been checked and positioned. The serving dishes have been warmed so that the food will maintain its proper temperature throughout the meal. As the afternoon light begins to fade toward evening, the palace prepares for one of those perfect moments that justify all the careful work and attention to detail that characterizes life within its walls. The guests will arrive soon, bringing with them the warmth of friendship and the pleasure of good company. The meal will unfold as it should, each course appearing at exactly the right moment, each detail contributing to an experience of hospitality that will linger in memory long after the last plates have been cleared away. This is the reward for all the quiet labor, all the patient attention to detail, the creation of moments of genuine beauty and fellowship that nourish the human spirit as surely as the food nourishes the body. It is work that leaves no permanent monument, no grand achievement that will be remembered through the ages, but it is work that makes life worth living for those who experience its fruits. The evening star appears in the darkening sky, visible through the kitchen windows as the last light of day fades into the gentle darkness of night. Soon the torches will be lit throughout the palace, creating pools of warm light that will guide the guests to their evening's entertainment. Mara pauses for a moment to appreciate the scene around her, the kitchen alive with purposeful activity, the servants working together with the easy cooperation that comes from shared purpose and mutual respect, the scents and sounds and sights of a meal being prepared with love and skill. This is her world, and she is content in it. tomorrow will bring new challenges and new opportunities for service, but tonight there is the satisfaction of work well done and the anticipation of an evening that will bring joy to all who participate in it. The palace bell chimes the hour, its voice carrying across the courtyards and through every corridor, marking the passage of time with the same gentle authority it has exercised for generations. The sound mingles with the voices from the kitchen, the crackling of fires, the soft footsteps of servants going about their final preparations. Soon Lord William and Lady Eleanor will take their places at the head of the table, welcoming their guests with the warmth and grace that characterize their hospitality. Sir Geoffrey and Lady Margaret will settle into their chairs with the comfortable ease of old friends, while Father Benedict will offer the blessing that will sanctify the meal and acknowledge the source of all good gifts. The conversation will flow as smoothly as the wine, touching on topics both serious and light, weaving together the various threads of community life into the rich tapestry of human fellowship. The food will disappear gradually from the serving dishes, not in hasty consumption, but in the slow, appreciative enjoyment that such careful preparation deserves. And through it all, the servants will move quietly and efficiently, ensuring that every need is met before it is expressed, that every guest feels welcomed and valued, that the evening unfolds with the seamless perfection that makes such gatherings memorable. The first guests arrive as the sun disappears behind the western walls of the palace, their horses' hooves clattering across the cobblestones of the courtyard. Sir Geoffrey's hearty laugh echoes from the entrance hall as he greets his hosts, while Lady Margaret's softer voice adds its musical note to the warm chorus of welcome. Father Benedict arrives shortly after, his simple brown robes marking his religious vocation, but not diminishing the genuine pleasure with which he is greeted. His presence adds a note of spiritual gravity to the gathering, a reminder of the deeper purposes that give meaning to the simple pleasures of food and fellowship. The guests are escorted to the small dining hall, where the table waits in perfect readiness, its embroidered cloth glowing in the light of the carefully positioned candles. The servants have outdone themselves in creating an atmosphere of elegant intimacy, where conversation can flow freely and friendships can deepen over the shared enjoyment of excellent food. Lord William takes his place at the head of the table, with Lady Eleanor at the opposite end, their positions marking them as host and hostess, but not separating them from their guests. Sir Geoffrey sits to Lord William's right, with Lady Margaret beside him, while Father Benedict occupies the place of honor at Lady Eleanor's right hand. Father Benedict offers the blessing, his voice carrying the authority of genuine faith, as he asks for divine favor on the meal and on all who will partake of it. His words are simple but profound, acknowledging the source of all abundance while expressing gratitude for the friendship that makes such gatherings possible. The meal begins with the ceremony and grace that mark all formal dining in the palace. The first course arrives carried by servants, whose movements are choreographed to perfection, each dish appearing at exactly the right moment, each serving accomplished with unobtrusive efficiency. The roasted fowl are presented with the dignity they deserve, their golden skin glistening in the candlelight, their accompanying vegetables arranged with artistic precision around the serving platters. The bread arrives warm from the ovens, its crust crackling softly as it is broken and shared among the diners. Conversation flows as naturally as breathing, touching on topics that range from the practical matters of estate management to the philosophical questions that occupy thoughtful minds. Sir Geoffrey shares news from his recent travels, while Lady Margaret discusses the charitable works that occupy much of her time. Father Benedict contributes observations drawn from his wide reading and his experience in counseling the souls entrusted to his care. His wisdom is profound, but lightly worn, offered not as dogma, but as gentle guidance for those who would benefit from his insights. The evening progresses with the measured pace that characterizes all the best social gatherings, each course appearing when the previous one has been properly appreciated, each topic of conversation developing naturally from those that preceded it. There is no sense of hurry or anxiety, no feeling that time is being wasted or that other obligations press too urgently for attention. In the kitchen, the servants clean and clear with the same quiet efficiency that marked the meal's preparation. Each dish is washed and returned to its proper place, each serving piece polished and stored according to the ancient protocols that ensure nothing is lost or forgotten. Mara works alongside her fellow servants, her hands moving automatically through the familiar tasks, while her mind reflects on the success of the evening. Every detail has proceeded exactly as planned. Every guest has been properly served. Every requirement has been anticipated and met. This is the satisfaction that comes from work well done, not the dramatic triumph of great achievement, but the quiet fulfillment of standards met and expectations exceeded. It is a satisfaction that will sustain her through the quiet tasks of tomorrow, giving meaning and purpose to labor that might otherwise seem routine. The evening air grows cooler as night deepens around the palace, and the guests begin to speak of departure. Their farewells are warm but not rushed, expressing genuine regret at the evening's end, while acknowledging the obligations that call them back to their own homes and duties. Sir Geoffrey and Lady Margaret take their leave with expressions of gratitude for the hospitality they have received, and invitations for Lord William and Lady Eleanor to visit their own estate in the near future. Father Benedict departs with his usual quiet dignity, carrying with him the renewed bonds of friendship that such gatherings create and strengthen. The palace settles gradually into the peaceful quiet of night, its inhabitants preparing for rest after another day of purposeful activity. In the servants' quarters, the women who have worked so hard to make the evening successful settle onto their straw mattresses with the tired contentment of labor well performed. Lady Eleanor makes her final preparations for sleep, her movements slow and meditative as she reflects on the success of the evening and the pleasure of reconnecting with old friends. Her personal maid, Anna, assists with the same gentle care that marked the morning's preparations, ensuring that her mistress is comfortable and ready for restful sleep. Lord William walks once more through his halls, checking the security of doors and windows, ensuring that the fires are properly banked, observing with satisfaction the good order that prevails throughout his domain. His responsibilities weigh lightly on him tonight, supported as they are by the capable hands and willing hearts of all who serve under his roof. The palace breathes quietly around them all, its stone walls holding the warmth of the day's activities while keeping out the cool night air. The servants sleep peacefully in their simple chambers, their rest earned through honest labor and willing service. In her narrow bed, Mara lies quietly beneath her woolen blanket, listening to the familiar sounds of the sleeping palace. Somewhere a door creaks softly in the night breeze. A timber settles with a gentle sigh. A night bird calls from the courtyard outside her window. These are the sounds of home, as familiar and comforting as her own heartbeat. They speak of security and continuity, of a world ordered according to ancient patterns that have proven their worth through countless generations. In this world, she has found her place and her purpose, surrounded by people who value her contributions and respect her skills. The work she does is humble in the eyes of the world, but it is essential to the smooth functioning of the community that depends upon it. Without the careful attention of servants like herself, the grace and hospitality that characterize palace life would be impossible to maintain. Her final thoughts before sleep takes her are of gratitude for the opportunity to serve, for the skills that make her useful, for the community that gives meaning to her labor. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and new opportunities for service, but tonight there is only peace and the quiet satisfaction of another day lived well. The palace sleeps around her, its many inhabitants resting safely within walls that have sheltered countless generations before them. The stone corridors echo softly with the breath of sleeping souls, while the banked fires glow quietly in their hearths, ready to spring back to life when morning calls them once again to serve. Outside, the stars wheel slowly overhead, marking the passage of hours with their ancient dance. The moon rises gradually above the palace walls, casting silver light through the narrow windows and illuminating the worn stones with gentle radiance. In a few hours, the cycle will begin again, the gentle awakening, the careful preparations, the patient service that keeps the palace functioning like a living organism. But for now, there is only the deep peace of night, the quiet rest that restores both body and spirit for the work that tomorrow will bring. The medieval world sleeps, wrapped in the comforting certainty of established order and time-tested traditions. In this world, every person has their place, every task has its meaning, every day brings opportunities for service and growth. It is a world that values community over individual achievement, cooperation over competition, the patient perfection of humble skills over the dramatic gestures that capture momentary attention. Mara sleeps deeply and dreamlessly, her rest undisturbed by anxiety or ambition. She has found her place in the great scheme of things, and that place satisfies her completely. Her work may leave no permanent monuments, but it creates daily miracles of comfort and beauty that enrich the lives of all who experience them. The palace holds her safely in its embrace, as it has held countless servants before her and will hold countless others yet to come. The stone walls have witnessed generations of faithful service, generations of quiet dedication to the ideals of hospitality and grace that make civilization possible. In her dreams, if dreams come at all, they are gentle ones, visions of well-tended fires and perfectly prepared meals, of gratitude expressed and work appreciated, of a community bound together by mutual respect and shared purpose. These are the dreams of someone who has found contentment in service, meaning in humble work, joy in the daily rhythms of life, lived in harmony with ancient wisdom. The night passes peacefully over the sleeping palace, carrying away the activities of another day and preparing the stage for tomorrow's gentle drama. In a few hours, the cycle will begin again, as it has begun for countless centuries and will continue for centuries yet to come. But for now, there is only peace, only rest, only the quiet breathing of a world at rest, secure in the knowledge that tomorrow will bring new opportunities for service, new chances to contribute to the great work of creating beauty and meaning from the simple materials of daily life. Sleep now. Dear listener, let yourself drift gently into that same peaceful rest that embraces Mara and all the palace inhabitants. Feel the security of those ancient stone walls around you, the warmth of banked fires that will kindle again with dawn's light. You are safe here, in this world of gentle rhythms and patient service, where every task has meaning and every person has worth. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let the quiet peace of the medieval night carry you into dreams as soft and gentle as the candlelight that flickers in the palace corridors. Rest now in the knowledge that some things endure: kindness, service, the quiet satisfaction of work well done, the deep peace that comes from living in harmony with time-tested wisdom. Sleep and wake refreshed, carrying with you something of the gentle grace that marked every moment of this servant's day 700 years ago, in a world built on stone foundations and sustained by willing hearts. Good night,